to German police. Several people have been injured in the state of Bavaria after a 17-year-old Afghan refugee attacked passengers on a train with both an axe and a knife.
Well, over 20 people have required medical attention after a 17-year-old man described as being an Afghan refugee by the Interior Minister of the state of Bavaria attacked people on a train just outside of the town of Würzburg in northern Bavaria. Now, 3 of those people who were attacked are understood to be in a serious condition. Others were treated for shock. Another person is being treated for minor wounds. Joachim Herrmann, the Interior Minister of Bavaria, confirmed that the 17-year-old was shot dead by police as he tried to flee the scene. He's described as being a 17-year-old Afghan refugee, and it's also, we're hearing from the Interior Minister of the state of Bavaria, understood that he yelled the phrase Allahu Akbar before carrying out his attack. It seems to be happening what people will see as a regular basis now, this terrorist attack that we've just had. We can't call it a terrorist attack because we don't know the full details, but do you think this is an isolated incident?
The question is in what relation? If you have in mind the refugee influx from foreign cultures to the center of Europe, of course, it cannot be an isolated incident because it's part of the game.
At least 3 police officers and 1 civilian killed in Kazakhstan's largest city of Almaty, where gunmen attacked a police headquarters.
Well, yes, I mean, just as you were saying, so far the casualty list is that 3 police officers have been killed, 1 civilian has been killed. Several other people have been hospitalized and are in critical condition, obviously, because of the nature of the attack. So what we know is that several armed gunmen opened fire on a police station with fully automatic weapons. Police obviously then returned fire. In an attempt to flee from the scene, the gunman tried to hijack a car, and the man driving the car tried to prevent it. From what we know so far, he was then shot himself and later died. This is the 1 civilian casualty. So the police do have 1 man in custody who they've managed to detain. He's a 27-year-old man from southern Kazakhstan. And from what we know, there is now a very, very in-depth and very thorough anti-terror operation going on across the city. Obviously, this is the largest city in Kazakhstan, so they're taking the necessary precautions. Train stations are being closed down. We've been seeing a lot of reports of roadblocks, cars being searched. Emergency services are saying that everyone needs to stay indoors.
Tonight, the man responsible for a hostage situation at a city Burger King is behind bars. During that tense situation, forced to stay inside the restaurant by the suspect, 4 hostages, one of them a 7-year-old girl.
With his hands up in the air, the man police say held 4 people hostage inside a Southwest Baltimore Burger King surrenders. He walks out with the remaining 2 hostages, a 7-year-old girl and the restaurant's 25-year-old manager. He let a 17-year-old restaurant employee and a 67-year-old male customer go hours before. The suspect does not resist as he lies down on the ground.
I see cops converging where I am. I just figured out, I think this is the guy that they're looking for, and I looked at all the friends and everybody else, and then I said, we need to get out of here right now.
It started at around 11 a.m. Sunday afternoon when an officer spotted the armed suspect who was wanted in connection to a rape that happened Saturday.
He tried to initiate a traffic stop, but the individual did not stop the vehicle, and a pursuit began. Police
and SWAT team officers surround Washington Boulevard and Monroe Street, along with reinforcement from neighboring counties, as negotiators talk to the suspect, enlisting the help of relatives of the hostages. Danielle Montgomery is the cousin of the youngest hostage. She speaks to the suspect for 20 minutes.
I just asked him to toss the gun and walk out with his hands up. And then that's what he did? That's what he did.
The 7-year-old girl and the 3 other hostages walk away unharmed. But the emotional strain is too much for the girl's mother.
He made the decision to do the right thing, and that was not harm anyone. He absolutely had the opportunity to do so, but he chose not to do so.
The question is on adoption of the resolution. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the resolution is agreed to.
It didn't take long for the floor of the Republican National Convention to become unruly.
A majority of the delegates from 11 states have submitted written petitions asking for a roll call vote on the rule.
Those rules are the convention rules, among them a requirement binding all delegates to their state's primary or caucus winner.
The chair now recognizes the delegate from the state of West Virginia.
Never Trump delegates hoped the rules wouldn't be approved during a roll call vote, potentially allowing them to unbind their votes.
But I'm not going to do this again. I'm not going to do this again. Did they just railroad?
During the chaos, delegates from Colorado and Iowa walked off the floor and the convention stage was left empty.
As a lifelong Republican, I've never seen anything like this.
When party officials resumed convention activities, they said they received petitions from only 9 states and 3 retracted their petitions, declaring there wasn't enough support to force a roll call vote. Ultimately, the uprising failed and the rules were adopted. The delegates will vote on their nominee Tuesday.
Moving on to a different news now. Evidence of widespread state-sponsored doping by Russian athletes at the Sochi Olympics has been confirmed in a report by an independent commission of the World Anti-Doping Agency. According to the report, a Moscow laboratory protected the Russian athletes during the 2014 Sochi Winter Games. The Russian Ministry of Sports oversaw the manipulation of athletes' analytical results and sample swapping. Russian athletes across a variety of disciplines are involved. The World Governing International Association of Athletics Federations, or IAAF, has already banned Russian athletes from competing in next month's Olympics due to doping. The latest development will strengthen calls for a blanket ban on Russian athletes competing at the Rio Olympics in August.
A new Russian app called Find Face, designed to assist identification through facial recognition, has fought off world heavyweights like Google in terms of accuracy levels. Originally, it set out to be a dating website, but now the app is a multi-purpose search tool, even used by Russian police. Recently, Find Face helped them to identify a man who'd lost his memory after a head injury. We spoke with the app's developers.
Everything we do is absolutely legal. We only use photos that are publicly posted by users. It is harder to work with international social networks. Facebook naturally wants to have control over its users' photos and does not allow access to third-party developers.
Well, since February, Find Face has been downloaded more than 1 million times. Now, that's caught the attention of foreign media, which delved deeper into the app, highlighting privacy fears. We talked to an expert on the matter.
Facebook's recognition software is also gathering tons of data and information from people around the world. So as sort of scary and disturbing as this new Find Face may be in Russia and how quickly it's gathering over 500,000 people, using this device, it is important to recognize that this has been going on for quite some time already, and that there are other devices, other applications and websites that are already employing this. People are voluntarily giving up their information and self-reporting, combining what Google has and then their work in combination with Facebook and in apps like you're seeing in Russia now. It's creating a really dangerous picture. Also, the other problem with Google is that Google has very close ties to the U.S. government and governments around the world.
One Spanish Springs neighborhood is dealing with a nasty bug infestation. Colo 8 News Now, Sydney Schofield spoke with one of the families dealing with that, and you won't believe all of the bugs that they have. Just take a look at this.
The Morris family home is covered in bugs.
It's just creepy in ways, like whenever you think about it, like you just feel it.
They've tried everything to get rid of them, and nothing has worked. Starting to panic, they reached out to Colo 8 News Now for help.
But you can see them coming out from underneath the bottom of the siding and working their way up.
We weren't able to get a hold of any entomologists or exterminators, but from our research, we believe they're false chinch bugs. Tiny little bugs that might be harmless, but can cover homes.
They were just completely covering the cement, like it was black.
Even pesticides and bug killer won't keep these pests away.
I do have some bug killer that does work slowly, but it's supposed to be a barrier to keep them from coming back, and that doesn't affect them. They'll just cross right over.
If they don't find a solution, the Morris family doesn't know how much longer they can stay in their home.
They'll fall off the roof, they'll fall off the garage door, and they'll get on you, but they, just feel like anything else, they brush them right off. It's just creepy to have this many.
They've lived in this neighborhood for 25 years and have never seen anything like this.
A thick layer of green slime, a toxic algae bloom,
is covering a number of beaches and marinas along Florida's east coast, killing animals and hurting businesses. Tourism is down and merchants are angry. The algae has been spreading for almost a month with the potential to sicken people.
To put it bluntly, this sucks. This is terrible. We got to a point where I couldn't put boats in the water and run them any longer because the algae would clog the cooling systems on the boats. Basically, I've been shut down for about a week and a half, 2 weeks.
A local company, Ecosphere Technologies, is trying to bring some relief. This is what they're facing: inches of a thick layer of algae, birds walking on its surface, and dead fish everywhere. The smell is foul. As for what causes outbreak, there are a number of theories.
Basically, we're fertilizing all of our waters to death.
Environmentalists also point to a lack of state pollution regulations and population growth. Algae outbreaks also occurred in 2005 and 2013, but not as extreme.
Florida's called many things, lightning capital, Hurricane Alley, but you don't typically associate Florida with earthquakes. So the surprising thing is, Saturday at 4 p.m., there was actually an earthquake, a minor shock, about 100 miles off the Volusia County coastline, this magnitude 3.7. According to the USGS, this does happen every so often around the state of Florida, but only one minor earthquake actually caused damage, and this was back in the 1800s near St. Augustine. Kind of an interesting fact, though.
Get ready. Scientists are now fearing a dormant Roman volcano may blow and affect 4 million people. This story comes to us courtesy of Sputnik News. They report that a new geophysical research letter study authored by Fabrizio Mera and others reports that over 4 million people could be at risk if the Colli Albani volcano complex bordering the Roman metropolitan area goes into a full-scale eruption.
Transgender children should be called Z. Teachers should call transgender children Z to avoid offense, new guidance says. Staff have been told a new language is needed for increasing numbers of pupils who do not want to be called he or she. The new guidelines have been issued by the Boarding Schools Association, which represents schools including Eton, attended by Princes William and Harry, and Harrow School, whose past pupils include Winston Churchill. Alex Thompson of the BSA told the Sunday Telegraph. Teachers, heads and deputy heads were asking questions about these issues, and they felt they were in the dark on what was politically correct and had fears of causing offense, as young people were questioning their gender identity. Author of the new guidelines Ellie Barnes said, schools need to make sure that all students are treated equally and fairly according to the Equality Act.
People in Norwalk today took part in a growing gaming phenomenon, catching the interest of kids and adults of all ages. Pokemon Go. St. Paul's on the Green invited Pokemon Go players to a party where they got a chance to catch Pokemon. Organizers say there are 2 Pokestops near the church, which are areas that can be visited to gain items in the location-based game. They say it's great that technology is bringing people together.
If you look around here today, people are talking to each other about what Pokemon they've caught. They're exchanging tips on how to play the game. So it's actually doing a little bit of what church does, which is fostering community.
The UK's new Prime Minister Theresa May has sworn before Parliament that she is prepared to use nuclear weapons against other countries.
Is she personally prepared to authorise a nuclear strike that could kill 100,000 innocent men, women and children?
Yes. And I have to say to the honourable gentleman, the whole point of a deterrent is that our enemies need to know that we would be prepared to use it.
At any time of night or day, a British nuclear submarine is patrolling international waters around the world in readiness for nuclear war. A fleet of 4, each armed with Trident thermonuclear weapons. Based on the west coast of Scotland, the fleet's mission for the last 2 decades, according to the UK's Defence Department, to deter the most extreme threats to national security. In one of his last acts before leaving office, Britain's former Prime Minister David Cameron committed to replacing Trident.
The nuclear deterrent remains essential, in my view, not just to Britain's security, but as our allies have acknowledged here today, to the overall security of the NATO alliance.
A view not universally shared in Britain. Opponents say nuclear weapons are a Cold War hangover unsuited to modern conflict, and Trident's estimated $55 billion replacement is too costly.
Well, it's an enormous amount of money on a weapon of mass destruction that, if used, would kill millions. The idea that we could ever use this is just appalling, immoral, illegal. So we oppose it because it doesn't address anything that we need to be dealing with today.
South Korea says the DPRK is ready for a fifth nuclear test. The statement from a Unification Ministry spokesperson came amid reports of increased activity at the DPRK's main Punggye-ri nuclear test site. The spokesperson said the South Korean government is maintaining full readiness and closely monitoring situations. On Sunday, Japan's Kyodo News Agency reported that the installation of an observatory facility has been detected at the DPRK's main nuclear test site.
China has announced that it's closing off a part of the South China Sea to conduct a series of military drills this week. Officials say that an area to the southeast of the Hainan Island will be closed until Thursday for Army exercises. No further details have been released about the nature of the maneuvers. The announcement comes days after the Hague-based Permanent Court of Arbitration ruled that China's claims over most of the South China Sea have no legal basis. Beijing rejected the arbitration case and called it unlawful.